Okay, good morning. Thank you very much to Vim for inviting me. Thanks to Paolo and Ava for your speeches, your talks just now. My name's Kate Thomas. I'm here to talk to you about content and why we need strategy to manage it. So bear with me while I get myself organised. Oh, before I start, on my slides there's lots of text, so you might feel compelled to kind of read it, which you're welcome to do, of course, but you may not get all of it as I'm speaking at the same time. I'm happy to share my deck afterwards, so don't feel like you have to take furious notes. And apologies, because I'll obviously have my back to someone at some point in the talk. Okay, so content is the currency of digital. Literally, sites and apps make people lots of money. We have places like eBay that shifted millions of pounds out of the retail economy into our pockets. But figuratively, without content, digital is a sad grey place. So we have sites like BuzzFeed, awesome internet time sinks. You can do quizzes, you can hear about celebrity gossip, you can follow up on things that you distract you from what you should be doing, like preparing this talk. But only if there's content. If there's no words or pictures, there's nothing to distract us. More importantly, if there's no content, we can't learn, we can't understand what's happening in the world, because there's nothing to tell us. And in this day and age, we actually can't get by. So we can't do online banking, we can't order groceries, we can't travel, we can't do things that online gives us an ease that didn't exist a few years ago. Everything today is presumed to be happening online. And if it's happening online, it's happening with content. So more than currency, content is digital's who, what, why, and when. No one disagrees with this. Everyone knows content is important. But why is it so hard? Why is it left at the last minute? Why do I have a job title, content strategist? Why can't people strategize their own content? Why does every content project I deal with, why is it unique? And I think that's because content is the energetic life force of digital. Take content away and there's nothing much going on. So I just want to take this idea of energy at the Information Energy Conference and see what parallels we can learn from real energy to apply them to content. So this is a dramatic picture of energy out of control. This is a bushfire in Australia, where I'm from. Uncontrolled and uncontrollable energy. No one wants to see this. Less sensationally, you have the more normal energy loss. In the UK where I live, a lot of the housing is old, they're not sort of equipped to deal with the climate, bizarrely. So energy just seeps out the windows, the doors, the ceilings. That's money and energy just out the window, literally. So is there a better way to manage energy? Is there a better way to stop this loss and to control and manage energy in a way that is more efficient? Well, of course there is, yep. So first you start with policy. So every government has energy policies that informs all work that follows. This is the energy policy of the UK government released last year. That then informs systems and infrastructure and resources that you need to deliver that energy. This is a solar panel farm from the Nevada desert in the US. This would never work in the UK, of course, no sun. And third, we need smart technology. So we need, for something to happen when we flick a switch on the side of the wall, and for those lights to come on, we need three things. We need policy, we need systems and resources and infrastructure, and we need smart technology. So we do this, and we're happy. We're all standing here, but we don't do it, and I don't like to think what might happen. So energy exists around us all the time. It always exists in one form or another, and it transforms all the time so we can use it. Stored energy is called potential energy, moving energy, kinetic energy. So think about content in this way. Evergreen content on websites the About Us pages, the mission statements, this sort of thing. That's energy that sits there fulfilling a quiet role of a potential something. It's there for a reason. But you also have more eye-catching, moving energy of well-written headlines, pull quotes, compelling images. That's the kinetic energy of digital. So this gives us a framework. If you think about content as energy, it gives us a framework we can use to lead clients and brands out of their digital confusion. So energy buzzes around content all the time. Negatively, on the left, it overwhelms people and organisations. And that's because they're cognitive frameworks plus systems plus businesses plus universities. Most people are thinking of the present and the immediate future. But when I talk to them about their website and what their website is going to be like in a year, 18 months, 2 years, and what their customers are going to want to do then, it's too difficult for them to think about. So, and this is where I had the idea for this talk. I was working with a client, trying to help them get from where they were to a new site in quite a short time frame. And they had this big mass of problems right in front of them. And this was a whole lot. They had stacks of content. The amount of content is never the problem. Typically, it is always the problem. They had no way to map that content to their business goals or that content to their user needs and what their customers wanted. They could not think through it because it was too much for them. And this created an almost palpable frustration in the room, and everyone was viscerally kind of going, we don't want to be in this meeting, it's awful. But more positively, energy around content is fantastic. But that positive energy when a project is going well and things are ticking over, that's what I love. And also, as people, when we use the web, it's amazing that you can just, in a few clicks, ease your life. Everything's so much quicker. You don't have to go to a shop. You can just order it yourself online. So lots of people do content these days. All of these roles have content marketing. We've got SEO, copywriters, project managers. Everyone has a vested interest in content. So why content strategy? What qualifies content strategy? Why does this sort of relatively new discipline, why is it necessary to help create digital these days? And to answer that, I'm asking you to step back in time to prior to 2007 and the iPhone, where digital was not always, and content wasn't always this energetic or complex. Back then, in 2006, content existed for most people, in most part, on a big laptop or a big desktop. There were no apps. There's no portability as we know it today. And there was no mobile at scale. We had mobile phones, but we used them to make phone calls. No iPhone, remember, so there are no videos. There's YouTube was around, of course, but no easy way to transfer video up. So think big screens, limited interaction, and not much transactional content. There's a little bit. And thanks to the wonderful Internet Archive, I can take you back to the internet of January 2006. This is the homepage of John Lewis, a big UK department store. And, it's not bad. The layout, there's not lots of white space, there's not too much text, but this is a print brochure cut up and put on a website. This is, I'm thinking they would have been very excited by that bottom row of coloured and distinct categories, and that would have persisted throughout the site. But there's no fluidity, there's no sense of the user experience. It's very, very blocky. And at first glance, I thought, and there's no e-commerce, but just in the top right, in the top nav, there is a checkout. And thanks to the Internet Archive, you can actually click through, and after 3 or 4 clicks, you can get to a payment screen. So, it works. Technically, it's valid, but Amazon's one-click purchase is a long, long way off. Government at this time, this is the UK government portal, which is not bad, also from January 2006. It's all about the links. Lots and lots of links. It's on its way to being user-centred, however. It's, the language is not bad. They've got health and wellbeing instead of Department of Health. But there's no content hierarchy. The page is uninteresting to look at. It's overwhelming. There's too much to read. But it's not too bad. So in 2006, publishing to a website was akin to publishing to book and magazine publishing. One thing happens at one time. There's no always-on publishing. There's no 24/7 because no one's got real smartphones. Content's energy was contained in a page. It was a singular object controlled by the publisher. Again, there was some user-generated content, but nothing. We had no platforms. Facebook was, 2007, I think? 2007 or a bit earlier. Content was not designed for ease of reuse. And the big exception here is tech publishing, who had separated content and format and standards long before the sites that I'm talking about. So, but mostly retail consumer sites weren't doing things for reuse. Web content used to be done in good faith. Web editors, the people who were looking after the content 10 years ago, content manager, web editor, editor, many of us had come from print and magazine publishing, so we understood how people read. We understood how the message needed to be structured for maximum effect. We controlled the message, the content, but we didn't control the medium. This was in the hands largely of IT and tech. They held the big systems, and I would have lots of conversations and techie conversations with techies about how I was going to get the content in the databases and dive in and change it. And this is largely still the case. Tech and IT still own a lot of the hardware and such. Then information architects and UX took the spotlight away from content. So there's a lot of focus on the experience. Meanwhile, all our content people were sitting in the background going, we are here, we're trying to tell you the right thing. And then in February 2011, a certain search engine changed their algorithm, and suddenly content was front and centre. So the Google Panda update of 2011 put an end to SEO as it was happening back then. So that black hat SEO where you had link farms and you could search for something and you would get to a page and it would be a whole list of links. So that's awesome for SEO, but it doesn't help someone looking for that information at all because they then had to click further. So Google started to penalise these sorts of pages, these sorts of sites and this kind of content because there was actually no real content. It was sort of machine-based stuff. So low quality content from 2011 is heading out the door. And finally, content, the star that it always was from this time over the past few years, as publishing hurdles are just dissolving and tumbling. So the barriers between content and UX and tech are disappearing. So we're working much more closely together. And the digital energy genie is out of the bottle. Content is now everywhere. Content is how everyone's, as we're looking at the eBay example before, it's so easy for us to take a clip, as Ava was saying, you can take a picture of a broken something, send it to your council. That's amazing. So much quicker than earlier. But unlike in 2006, when content editors and content managers could just say, well, you should do it this way just because, content needs more. It's too important now for us just to say that ourselves. So it's too expensive, too important, and we need more than our good word to justify our decisions. Basically, to manage content's energy, as we learnt with energy earlier, you need policy, systems, and smart technology. To manage the energy of content, you need those same things. So planning and policies for content strategy are analysis, requirements gathering, editorial calendars. Systems that you need that we use to manage content: governance frameworks, content models, content plans, translation and localization frameworks, resources, people, content budgets, and technology. Paper, no paperless offices where I come from, spreadsheets, software and hardware. So with this, so why content strategy and not these people? Because every one of these people on the left have a vested interest in content. There's no question of that. But only at certain points in the content lifecycle. It's only content strategists who go from the very beginning to the very end and think about what's going to happen afterwards. And that's because of strategy. That's because of the planning, systems, resources that we use to deliver content. So I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about, because I think people think, what is content strategy? Is it a thing? Is it a process? And it's both of those things. So first, we start with a presentation, essentially. It's typically, a content strategy is just a presentation, a PowerPoint or a keynote presentation that summarises the problem, and with research and insight, you come up with a set of recommendations, which is your content strategy. That sets the new vision for what you're meant to be doing with your content, makes recommendations for about what should happen with current content, recommends a structured approach to meet the needs of the new requirements, and outlines the standards and practices you need to do that. So that's going through the entire life cycle. So how do you get to a content strategy? So number one, you start with a problem. What problem are you trying to solve? Stakeholder interviews and user research. 2, look at what other people are doing. Competitive audit. Who is doing what well? Who can you borrow from? And who don't you want to imitate? Who's not doing things too well? What are the opportunities? The content audit. That is not just, this is of the site that you're updating, but not just of the website. So look at everything that people have. So look at the website, the apps, the blog, the email campaigns the marketing communication team is sending out. Look at the newsletters that go out. And most importantly, also as Eva was saying earlier, talk to the call centre. Guaranteed, any project I've ever worked on, you get down to the call centre and someone pulls out of a bottom drawer on a bit of paper the top 10 things that people call and complain about. And that becomes the top 10 things that you need to have really available on the website. So don't exclude those people at all. So that's, your content audit is of everything. Then you have a gap analysis. What are you missing? What new things do you need to do and what do you need to get rid of? And finally, you have the content strategy. So once you have the content strategy, you can start to put in place the things that have to change to fix your problem that you're trying to solve. So this will depend on your project, and it comes in a myriad of opportunities. So as a content strategist, you get to this point and you have a grab bag of things that you might need to do. You'll always need to do a taxonomy of some sort, I imagine. SEO strategy, then topic briefs for content authors, content development plans, matrices, workflows, style guides, editorial schedules and team models, etc. A lot of content strategy, thanks to the amazing book that Christina Halvorsen put out in 2008, Content Strategy for the Web, that was very much focused on the marketing and editorial side of content. But before that, we had more of a technical kind of background to content that other people had been doing, and her name's gone out of my head, but it'll come to me later. But you need to consider both of these things, the editorial, what's at the front, as well as what's in the background. This is an example of a content plan, just to show you. This was a content plan I did for one client where we did a page-by-page analysis of the site. And I only show you this level of detail because at some point, someone in the organisation is going to come to you and say, what did you do in my page? Where's my page? It's gone. It's different. Why did you do that? And you need to come back and remind yourself. You would build this based on the audit that you've done, but you need to go into this very detailed approach because no one else is doing this. The information architects have done the framework. Tech is looking at the receptacle, whatever the content is going into, but no one else is doing this sort of very detailed analysis. Editorial calendar, once you have something live, on the left, it's a very detailed approach that you can take. This was for another client I did where every week there was one of 5 approaches to content on the site, making sure the IA was okay, were there any problems with the CMS components, did we need any new ones, content hygiene, just broken links, SEO, was there anything particular we needed to do with that, and then was there any new content needed. So I mapped these out for the year, week by week, what had to happen. But on the right is a very high-level example of an editorial calendar, which is just the themes, the content themes for a magazine for 12 months. Oops. Copy template. Now, this is where a copywriter will plug in the content. I will have written this based on the back of the content plan that you saw, and it just maps up to whatever page they need to update. And the key point, and the reason I'm showing this, is that the field titles in green there, it is the darker colours, they map into the CMS where this content will live. And this is the reason I'm showing these deliverables, really, is to show on their own these are kind of pointless. This is part of the content strategy process and the roadmap that you have when you come out of a content strategy. All of these things need to relate. So field names here in the copy template match up with the CMS, match up with the overall plan, which means people only have to do things once. So that's the sort of what you need to get to. I'll be sharing the deck, so you don't have to bother noting these down, but if you're interested in using these, here are 2 examples that show where you can find these tools and apply them to your own work. So, using content strategy to channel content's energy. So, why you need to do this? Content is here to stay. It's more important than ever. Content strategies are diversifying, so how you apply what you need to do really depends on individual circumstances. But 2 very key points that apply anywhere. Content has to be discoverable and it has to operate at scale. As we saw in Paolo's talk, people are using, and we do it ourselves, we're using multiple devices to access the same thing. That doesn't happen by magic. That just doesn't happen because it does, because someone is doing some hard work in the background. And that requires long-term thinking. Treat content and its energy seriously and with the respect it deserves, and use content strategy to sort sense from nonsense. So you can go back to people who are arguing that they really, really need that page on the site, and then you can tell them, no, you don't, because no one's visited it for 12 months and it's no longer on brand. And harness good energy to turn a content quagmire into a content solution. Thank you.